Welcome back to the show. We got a great one lined up. History made for crypto, Bitcoin. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. Let's get right into it. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and digperspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.05 trillion market cap for crypto. The market's off by 2.2%. Bitcoin 90,000 plus right now. Ethereum 2,200 plus. Number 3 spot XRP at 255. We're off 2.4 on the 24-hour. We're up 25.1 on the 7-day. My goodness. Let's take a look at the range of price. The range of price between 240 and 264. We'll keep an eye on it. We got a chart for you to see when you get out of here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's XRP Las Vegas. Look at all the incredible people, from Christian Carlo to Jake Boyle, from Caleb and Brown, the president of the Digital Chamber, Brad Garlinghouse, Simon McLaughlin, Dr. Chris Brummer, Kevin Maloney from iTrust, Stephen McClurg from Canary Capital just filed an Axelar ETF. Austin King from Omni, Mark Otto, Nancy Beaton from Uphold, Keith Grossman, Mark Otto's from Monerex, first XRP Ledger Bank, baby. Think about that one on stage. I'm telling you, don't mess around. Axelar, the Easy A brothers, these guys are going to set it on fire. By the way, there's going to be a $25,000 prize given to a builder. We're going to pick the best builder. We're going to do a Shark Tank pitch, and we're going to make it amazing. And someone is going to win $25,000 for the best idea. Bitwise's Matt Hogan, Paul Barron Network, Boone Bergsman, David Schwartz, for goodness sakes, Johnny Deaton. Yes. James Murphy, Lynette Zhang, Jason Cousins, Andy Sheckman, Artur Kurjakulov, and we have so many more. You just won't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. Get your ticket. Last year, Christian Carlos said the XRP Ledger could be used for the U.S. market infrastructure, paraphrasing. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff you're going to hear. Make the investment in yourself. Get your ticket. Click that link right there. The 83 days and counting. And join us in the Freedom Zone. Click the join button right here. 0 Google ads for less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. People are jumping on this offer, and it may change in price, so I suggest you lock it in right now. We're covering extra content as well. I love it in there. I hope you will join us. Great way to support the channel for almost nothing. Historic day for Bitcoin yesterday, and there's more history to be made today, they say. Let's get into this. Now, how will the U.S. domiciled assets be treated? Well, let's hear what happened here.
Today we're signing, this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in fully?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And I made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Today we're
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. History has been made, and it's amazing to me. There's so much to unpack here. Let's get into it, because this is the statement here. Just a few moments ago, President Trump signed an executive order to establish a strategic Bitcoin reserve, from David Sachs, the AI crypto czar. Now, I want to go into this. As he did say in that clip, the reserve is like a digital Fort Knox for the cryptocurrency, often called digital gold. Right? So we know all of these things. Promises made, promises kept. What he goes on to say here, and we're going to get into this in a second, the government will not acquire additional assets for the stockpile which is different than the reserve where the other assets mentioned will be going, beyond those obtained through forfeiture proceedings. So anything seized, so some kind of forfeiture or illegal activity or something. The purpose of the stockpile is responsible stewardship of the government's digital assets under the Treasury Department. More on that in a second. Meanwhile, we're tracking this executive order that is signed last night. And I said it makes you wonder how Ripple's case, penalty, and fine could be viewed in light of this order. In other words, suggesting because they're only going to acquire assets in the stockpile for which XRP, Solana, ADA, and apparently ETH will be in, I'm thinking that fine could be very important for a way for the US government to collect in XRP that fine and store that XRP in a stockpile. But wait, there's more. Remember yesterday, Vincent Van Cote had a really cool thread that he was saying, hey, I'm just going to leave this theory out here because he engaged ChatGPT about the analysis of the scenario of how the government could pay $10,000 per XRP and then set the price by purchasing the escrow from Ripple. And honestly, it could have been at any price. He just chose 10,000. And then they could be issued T-bills in exchange for that. Well, if it's a revaluation of XRP, you have to say to yourself, then that's dollar for dollar. If that's a price set for the market, and you're issuing T-bills, treasuries to Ripple and accepting XRP at a revalued price, then the taxpayer hasn't lost a thing now, have they? But let's be fair. They could do this in a swap at current price too, right? They could say, no, we're doing a swap. You get T-bills at $2.55, which it is right now today. That's the deal. That's what you get. It could be that also. But it's interesting here to understand that they won't be purchasing them in a general aspect the way purchasing goes. This is interesting. Now, since that news, Brian Armstrong has said many of the G20 nations to follow the U.S. to establish a Bitcoin strategic reserve. This is accurate. You are going to see other countries now follow suit, knowing that the largest economy and superpower of the world is doing it. And I have said that the United States is, in fact, the catalyst for the crypto bull cycle. And here's a very important tweet that breaks down what I'm talking about here. It's Eleanor Terrett recapturing David Sachs's comments here in the breakdown, and he endorses it and says it's accurate. So let's get into it. This is the part you really want to get into. The strategic reserve will contain only Bitcoin, the digital asset with the most store of value, using the 200,000 or so tokens already in the government's possession that has been seized over the years through criminal and civil forfeiture. Sachs says Besant and Lutnick have also been given authorization to explore means of acquiring more Bitcoin through avenues that will not cost the taxpayer. One of the ideas floated in this was Howard Lutnick mentioning that they could use money collected from tariffs from other countries to purchase Bitcoin because it wouldn't be actual taxpayer dollars. I say indirectly, those are taxpayer dollars. And it doesn't mean just because it didn't come out of our pocket that it's not our dollars. So that gets interesting. However, there could be many other ways that they could find a surplus somewhere and be able to buy Bitcoin. And I hope that they do. If that's the plan, I hope that they do. The executive order also mandates a full audit of all digital assets currently in the government's possession. Now, before I get to the next section, I just want to say that this is interesting to me because we're looking at all of this in the Bitcoin. And I have said before, if they do not reveal who the 4 Satoshis are that the Department of Homeland Security interviewed, then Bitcoin is a government psyop if they sign it into a strategic reserve, which they just did. I've got my answer. I'm not telling you it needs to be yours. I'm just telling you I have mine. Bitcoin was created as a financial band-aid for the monetary transition to the new digital on-chain economy. Write it down. Otherwise, why not tell us who the 4 Satoshis are? Right? So they can pretend that Bitcoin doesn't have an issuer when we know that in fact it does? For the second half of this news, historic news, the other is a digital asset stockpile containing assets other than Bitcoin, presumably XRP, ADA, ETH, and Solana, as announced by the president last Sunday, and potentially others. The key difference between the reserve and the stockpile is that the government will not actively look for ways to purchase more of the asset contained in the stockpile. It will only explore using government funds if they can find a budget-neutral ways to do that on buying Bitcoin. Sachs says the purpose of the stockpile, you're going to want to pay attention to this part, is responsible stewardship of the government's digital assets under the U.S. Treasury. You know, the same Treasury that had Craig Phillips, Michael S. Barr, Susan Friedman, who's still there, and Rosie Rios, the 43rd Treasurer, who is a board member at Ripple right now. That Treasury. Meta Lawman comes in and rightfully says that, okay, I'm confused. Senator Lummis' Bitcoin Act calls for the Treasury to purchase 1 million Bitcoin over a 5-year period. She just called for the passage of the act again an hour ago last night. Given the president's executive order, is that act now dead or alive, David Sachs? Well, David hasn't answered, but you know what? It's not just him. I asked this question in regards to the stockpile. If the U.S. government won't actively look for ways to purchase more of the asset in the stockpile, and the U.S. Treasury is responsible for the stewardship, how does the U.S. Treasury obtain those assets? And why would the U.S. Treasury need stewardship over these assets? Did the U.S. government just suggest that XRP, Solana, ADA, and ETH will be deemed systemically important? And did Brad Garlinghouse and Stuart Alderati work out a deal for a portion of the XRP escrow? How else do they get these assets? There can't be that much XRP seized in forfeiture. This is amazing. And why would the U.S. Treasury need stewardship over those particular assets, XRP, ADA, ETH, and Solana? Well, I suggest because they actually have utility. And this leans into the notion that we may see zero cap gains on the utility protocols so that they can become the leader in the fourth industrial revolution and in creating US as the leader of the Internet of Value. That's what I'm seeing taking shape here. And when it comes to stewardship, well, that's a hell of a word. John Ferguson comes in here and says, I think Dig Perspectives is on to something, and I hope tomorrow it becomes more clear after the meeting what the White House is going to do. What does it mean to be a steward of something? Well, this is what Grok 3 says. Being named a steward of something over something means you are entrusted with the responsibility to manage, care for, or oversee it. A steward is someone who acts as a guardian or administrator, ensuring whatever they are in charge of, whether it's a resource, property, organization, or even a concept, is maintained, protected, or used wisely for the benefits of others or a greater purpose. The term comes from the Old English stigward, meaning keeper of the house, and historically referred to someone who managed a household or estate on behalf of a lord or owner. Today, it is often used more broadly. For example, if you are a steward of the environment, you're responsible for protecting and sustaining it. If you're a steward of a tradition, you preserve and pass it on responsibly. It implies duty, accountability, and often a sense of service, acting not for your own gain, but for the good of what's been placed in your trust, which would mean XRP, Solana, ADA, and ETH placed in the hands of the Treasury makes the Treasury the steward of those assets. The question is, will Ripple be paying the SEC fine, $125 million, to the Treasury in XRP? Jeremy Hogan chimes in and says, we got precedent for this, ladies and gentlemen. Although the Ripple judgment is denoted in US dollars, it is possible that Ripple could satisfy the judgment against it by transferring the same amount of XRP to the federal XRP stockpile address. There is a Supreme Court case from 1869, Williard versus Taylor, that took place after the Civil War when the general idea was U.S. legal tender was a little less settled than it is now, and they paid in gold. So there is precedent for all of this, ladies and gentlemen. And then there's this. A reminder from DAI here. The U.S. Treasury now has stewardship of the following assets. U.S. currency, the Treasury oversees the issuance of physical U.S. dollar notes. The government securities, the Treasury manages Treasury bills, notes, bonds, and federal financing. Gold reserves, Treasury stewards U.S. gold reserves, mainly at Fort Knox. Foreign currency reserves, the Treasury holds foreign currencies to stabilize the dollar. Special drawing rights, the Treasury manages U.S. SDRs from the IMF as reserves. Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, the Treasury oversees seized Bitcoin reserves established yesterday. And the established digital asset stockpile, the Treasury manages forfeited digital assets, including XRP, set up March 6th. And then you got to remember this from Brad Garlinghouse and the IMF, Ross Cacao. Take a listen.
You want to take one? Go for it. The first one's for you. IMF. Do you see IMF holding crypto assets in the future? I did not put that up there.
And what would need to happen for the IMF to hold those assets?
Remember, I'm from the legal department. I'm supposed to be very conservative about these things. I don't want to go into great details about
Maybe I should take what the IMF is going to do. I think we stunned Ross into silence with that one.
For that to happen, okay, under the current legal framework, some country would have to use a crypto asset as its currency.
Oh boy. Well, there you have it, huh? Some country would have to use it as a currency. You guys know by now that I believe that XRP will in fact be underpinning the US dollar to provide its dominance for the next 150, 250 years. I do believe that. And I believe what we witnessed yesterday, and possibly what we will witness again today, is another giant step towards that actual realization. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. We're going into the freedom zone, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you will join us today. ETHgate is real, and there's an executive order that is starting to acknowledge just the wrongdoings that have gone on, whether it's in the political world or the crypto world. We're going in right now. Again, not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I hope you will click the join button and come on in. All right. Well.